Yeah, go ahead, Dorothy.
Hey, Dorothy.
Hi, I wanted to ask about using the salt scrubs. So when I use one of them, I usually wash my body with soap and then put the salt scrub on and then wait about 5 minutes. And then I rinse it off. So I'm wondering if I'm doing it backwards. In other words, do
Nope,
I
that's
need
perfect. Yeah, that's
Okay,
perfect.
I don't need to wash it off with soap, or it doesn't
No.
matter. Okay,
No.
that's what I needed. Okay.
But
Thank
even
you.
if you did it in reverse, it would still be good. But I like doing the salt scrub after the soap, just so there's going to be a little bit of the essential oil that kind of lingers on the skin a little bit, and that's the perfect way of doing it. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. How are you liking it? You like using the salt scrubs?
Oh, yes, I have several. I like them.
Yeah, you should see our bathtub. It's got our shower bathtub. It's littered with like half little jars of things.
And go ahead, Christy.
Hey, Christy.
I agree. Those salt scrubs are amazing, and all my friends are loving them too. So I need to order some more. But I do have a question about a new client, and her condition is called idiopathic intracranial hypertension. She has a cyst on her pineal gland 4 millimeters, and she added that she has antibodies for lupus, but no active disease. They suspect Lyme, but no test done. So our question is primarily with the hypertension and the pineal cyst, are there oils that you would avoid? And then also, what would you recommend oils and chronic healing?
I mean, I'd avoid things that are hot, like I'd avoid like cinnamon, cassia. Thyme would probably be okay. But if you're going to use thyme just because of the issues with the potentials for autoimmune, I'd probably stick with Moroccan thyme. The other thing to use with autoimmune issues, and this might even be a good thing to use here, I mean, it's not going to necessarily treat the condition, but it could be something that's very helpful, is vetiver, and like make it into like an ointment or lotion or even a liniment so that you can apply it all over the body. You know, we're going to be doing the regenerating the immune system in like about 3 weeks or so. And so we're going to go systematically, and it's going to be a lot of applying topical things combined with inhalations and everything. And one of it is the use of vetiver to stimulate the immune system, but also to regulate like hypervigilant immune responses, you know, combined with like Moroccan thyme and things like that. And so, whenever in doubt with anything that's autoimmune, or that there's the potential for autoimmune, I should say. You know, she has some indicators, but she's not fully testing positive, it sounds like. The Moroccan thyme is anti-inflammatory. It's good, and it's not very hot. You know, where like red thyme, white thyme, have a little bit more heat to it. But definitely stay away from the cinnamon and things like that. Idiopathic. I mean, I'm just thinking this out for a second.
Yeah, like part of what I'm wondering, because she has a high stress industry, if I just start working on like calming the body down, calming down the stress.
Yes, stress is a big indicator, like I would think, or a lot of low emotions. Here, I would say it's probably stress. The other issue. Yeah, blood's just not draining out of the head. So, like a couple issues, like a lot of times with migraine symptoms, and we know that she gets migraines. Are they just bad headaches, or are they migraines?
She did not list them as migraines, but she listed that she gets headaches and she's regularly takes over-the-counter painkillers.
Okay. And she didn't say what part of her head she's getting them.
No, I've only done like a pre-consult. The session's
Okay.
actually coming up, so I just had like a brief
Yeah.
conversation with her.
I'd be curious to see where the headaches are at, but let's just move forward no matter what. And so, based on what you're saying, hyper reactive sensory nerves, tension in the head. I would guess that there's probably a lot of tension in the jaw as well with that kind of condition, like a lot of tension in the jaw. So a couple of things that I would look at. So for one, reduction of stress, but also reduction of adrenal function. And so that can look a couple of different ways. We always talk about marjoram being something that pulls you out of fight, flight, and tones the vagus nerve. That could possibly be helpful. But here, because of stress loads and what does she do for a living? I'm just curious. Like I think there's something about like her environment. Like, so what does she do for a living?
She's a political journalist, so she's in all that crazy
Okay,
stuff all the time.
yeah. Okay, now I remember. Okay.
So I'm trying to just teach her and give her tools to help her manage.
Right. So this is what I would say. So with that piece of information, like, so here's a little bit of the issue is, okay, so we have the body reaction, we have the head reaction. We also have, she's in a situation, like you said, she's a political, what is it? A political journalist?
Journalist, yeah.
Yeah. And so a bit of a public figure, even if it's not always like her name, which I mean, she's out there. And she's in an arena where, people are going to get upset at her regardless of what she says. Everybody's just all over the place in this arena. So she's going to have hostilities being directed at her. And so whenever we see somebody who's in a position where, maybe they're in charge of several thousand people or, something like that, there are certain parameters that might be a little bit different than the average person. And some of it can be stress levels, but there's also like levels of aggression and hostility that are directed at you, but it might not be by people having conversations with you, but people are sitting and grinding on you no matter what. And so what happens is, like I always kind of hate using the term psychic attack, but it's the thing that kind of best describes it. But it's just like people thinking super negative or hostile thoughts and directing them towards a person. And even though you might not be aware of it, your body still has a reaction. Just like you can do healing on a person at a distance, you can grind on a person and make them feel bad at a distance in this very same way. Same way you could just pray for a person. Like all of it is the same mechanics. And so a lot of times guys that are people, I should say, in the corporate setting, when they would have several, a few thousand employees or something, when they would make decisions, their blood pressure would go up, for example, quite substantially. And it was usually tied to a bunch of hostility coming from employees, not that they were stressed out about it. And so here I would say that kind of falls into the same line. And so I like the idea of calming down the adrenals, but a little bit more specific towards people being aggressive or hostile towards her. And I think this actually even would start to resolve some of the health issues. For one, it will make her feel better. Like it won't make her body less reactive. But I think it will also actually help reduce some of the symptoms. In any time that the lymphatic system is stagnant, it makes the sensory nerves much more activated. And when the sensory nerves are much more activated, the tendency is for the adrenals to get more activated. So I still stick with the thing that I say about the vetiver, calming to the sensory nerves, relaxing to the body, still can help stimulate and regulate the immune system. But I would actually use, you could use spikenard. I would actually probably use jasmine. I like jasmine for certain kinds of psychic attack. And the reason being is it still has some antispasmodic properties, which means it's calming and relaxing to the body, but it's very good for calming and soothing lower emotional responses, and it helps to diminish the tendency for the body to push back, like when somebody's being aggressive towards you. You know, it almost softens those responses and almost makes it a little bit more like kind of playful, which takes off the intensity a little bit. And so I would actually use jasmine, probably applied to the feet or to the wrist. She could also take long, slow, deep breaths at night when she's getting ready to go to bed. It would probably help her sleep better. It would definitely relax her body, relax her emotional body, and stimulate the more intuitive part of our brain, which means that the sensory nerve part is calming down. Vetiver will do that as well, but sometimes I use a combination of for that vetiver, spikenard, and jasmine, either mixed together or like applied to different parts of the body, you know, separately. I tend to put the jasmine on the feet, on the wrists, on the temples, or just a lot of inhalation. You could also do the chest. The vetiver, I kind of cover the whole body. The spikenard, I tend to put on the feet, like just cover the feet. I would do that. You could have her spend some time doing something that's like kind of cleansing to the kidneys and the Mingmen. You could use some Palo Santo, you could use some hyssop, you could use even eucalyptus, you know, something like that. Chocolate root cleanser actually would be great, actually, now that I think that out. With her focus just on her Mingmen and kidneys. I think that's probably going to be the thing that helps to regulate all that. But part of the issue with something like this is the brain is real congested. The blood vessels in the head are a little bit dilated, and there is like a lot of accumulated energy in the head. And so her like she looks like kind of a little bit like this, like, you know, her lower body and everything, and it kind of gets a little bit bigger up here, but it's more because of congestion. And so you could have her inhale oils that are like dark blue, like dark blue tansy or yarrow, German chamomile, something like that, even that blue cypress, with her awareness on the jaws. Her jaws are very overactivated. That is causing part of the headaches and the head issue. My guess is she's probably also got a lot of tension in her jaws. She might not, sometimes they have it and they're not aware of it because it's been there so long, but there's probably a bunch of tension in her jaws. Some kava taken internally could be helpful if she's willing to take something internal. If that doesn't respond, I would actually probably shift over to maybe like anise or anise. And just because it has a balancing effect on the autonomic nervous system, which is your involuntary nervous system. And just like when you're treating them, this is a thing, an indicator to look at, which is tied to like anxiety, and it can be tied to like imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. Is they'll be talking and then every once in a while they'll just go like they'll just take this weird kind of like big like gulpy breath, like where it just feels like the need to calm them down. It's the diaphragm is tight, they're not getting deep breath, but it's also starting to cause what you would call like gulping of air, which is an imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. Like they're not shifting from like sympathetic to parasympathetic, or fight, flight to rest and repair. After it starts to calm down, the thing that I would do is, I mean, I'm just like laying some things out to swing for the fences. You know, you might have to adjust this, but the thing that I would have her do is work well also with saffron. I probably wouldn't do that right off the bat, but after a couple of treatments, saffron really helps shift you over to the intuitive side of the brain. I would probably give it to her internally, 1 to 2 drops. It will have an effect on the mood, on like how she feels, sense of well-being, but it definitely shifts you out of that sensory part of the mind over to the intuitive side of the mind. And it also helps to regulate the ajna, you know, the center between the eyebrows. That helps to regulate all the centers. And part of it is her lower centers look smaller than the bigger ones, but I think it's because they're so congested. And the congestion is probably not hers. It's probably from other people. So pranic healing wise, you know, if you want to go there with that, I would look at cutting cords, cleaning protective webs, and shrinking inhibiting the jaws, the perineum, and the soles of her feet are overactivated as well. Sometimes what happens when somebody's under prolonged periods where somebody's really coming at them, and here it's groups of people, is these centers get overactivated, and it causes almost like a kind of like a Kundalini syndrome of sorts. A lot of times it will manifest as occipital neuralgia, like at the base of their skull. You know, a migraine literally means pain on one side of the head. So it's usually like one side or the other side, it's sharp pain. But when you start dealing with neuralgias, it's the same kind of pain where it's a sharp, you know, sharp stabbing pain, or like a toothache, like a real, might be dull, but it's real achy, but it's like a nerve achy. She could be getting it in her face or at the base of her skull. And so that's why I was like curious to see where the headaches are. If it's the top of her head, that is just a traditional high blood pressure headache, which is Ming Men. But she's covered in cords. Her protective webs are super, super congested. Her arms and legs are very congested. You know, mugwort on the arms and legs, on the joints, can be very, very helpful. I mean, that's a lot to cover in a couple sessions. And like, so here's the other thing with like really bad headaches and migraines, more migraines and neuralgias than anything, is like sometimes you start shifting them a little bit, and you almost have to do it little bits at a time, because the syndrome, especially if they're in the middle of a headache or a headache cycle or migraine, is sometimes it doesn't change, or it actually even gets a little bit aggravated before it gets better. It's actually better to be able to treat it when they're not in a, I don't want to say crisis, but when they're in the middle of like the headache or the migraine, because there's less potential for there to be some aggravation, you know, of the inflamed nerves. And so sometimes if that's really concerned, I do use some galbanum just to kind of keep the edge down a little bit. At some point, you'll probably need to do some work on the bronchioles to loosen up the diaphragm. But here you're just going to have to start unwinding and see what kind of brings her relief first. I would say cutting cords, and so, you know, use of rue for that, or just going through and cutting the cords. I would actually cut cords while she's inhaling the rue, to be honest with you. And then if you have the protective web blend or poplar balsam, have her inhale that as you clean the protective webs. And when you clean the webs, clean them substantially, like way more than you would think, you know, a couple minutes on each one. And that right there will help her to not be so congested and impacted and start to be able to let things off. I would clean the arms and legs and the spine, and then what you think would, be like the migmen or the kidneys, definitely cleaning the lower centers though. Yeah, I mean, there's probably just a little bit that I've said is probably 3 or 4 weeks worth of work. I would say treat her once or twice and then, get back with me with that and I can talk you through it. But the thing with a situation like this, there is no template like this is what you need to do. And there's kind of no right or wrong. It's this just like back and forth where you just start tweaking and treating and unwinding and just starting to address things. And different personalities will handle this kind of intensity that she's in with her job in different ways. And so some people, you can go at them pretty hard and they can handle it. And some people you really have to do little tiny spoonfuls of therapy at a time and then back off. And so you're not quite sure where she's at yet because you haven't interacted with her. And I would almost say, like she might say go for it, but her body might not be, that's a personality thing, not necessarily the body. And so like even if she says that, it's great that she's enthusiastic, but I would still monitor how the body's reacting. And I think, within a few sessions, you should probably have your rhythm of what's bringing her relief, but she's going to need a lot of arm and leg work, a lot of lower chakra work, a lot of protective web work.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Thank you. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, perfect.
And go ahead, Tracy.
Hello. So first I want to apologize for always asking questions because I know I've taken so many classes and stuff and it's like sometimes
No, questions are good. Questions are good. I like questions.
it seems like right when I'm having a healing crisis, I forget everything. So
yeah, that makes you pretty human.
okay, good. And it's interesting, all the things that you told Christy, I'm like, oh, that's probably gonna help me too. So a couple of weekends ago, I got heat exhaustion from being outside and I wasn't sweating and I put something on the plant prana oil thing on Facebook and they told me helichrysum, which is great because I've been bathing in it. So that's helping with the sweat thing. But the issue with my heart rate and my blood pressure going up, like my heart rate that day went up really pretty high for rest, like I was 8 hours out and it was still high. And I've noticed I'm trying to start doing more active things because, COVID and all that kind of just, I was sedentary for too long. So the heart rate and stuff may be because of that. I did have an echocardiogram yesterday, but I don't know the results of it yet. I think my EKG looks pretty good, but they hadn't really come back and told me anything. But
They check your electrolytes.
I was probably deficient then, but since then I've been using things I don't think they tested them, no. But I've been trying to take emergency and things like that to balance them out. Headache, I got the pain at the base of my skull, and just when my heart rate goes up, my head feels really full and like hot.
Are you getting headaches or it just feels full?
Sometimes headaches, like it's weird because it's like, oh, I have a headache, and then it's like, oh no, it's just hot. Then oh no, I have a headache. So it kind of comes and goes.
When you get hot, are you sweating?
Not really, because like when I'm getting hot, then it's just I'm sitting down, so I'm not really.
But you're not breaking into sweats or anything like that?
No, nothing like
Okay.
that.
Is there just parts of your body that get hot or is it everywhere?
Just my head.
Just your head gets hot. Okay. Forehead or your whole head?
Whole head.
Okay. And let's get super personal and talk about how much you're peeing. Like what's your urination levels like?
I pee pretty good.
Pretty good. And
Yeah, like, like I don't hold it,
okay. But like you're having like normal flow and like a decent amount comes out and you're going pee, a few times a day, multiple times a day.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's yeah, I drink
What color is it? Like really light or really dark or
really pale.
normal? Really
Really
pale.
Mhm.
Like straw color or even lighter?
Lighter. I mean, like it's.
Okay.
But I drink a lot of
So
water.
do you have Shazandra? Do you have
I think-
Shazandra?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's have you start taking some Shazandra at night as you're going to bed. And when they checked you out at the doctor, blood pressure was where?
I don't remember what they
You
said, but
didn't say that you had high blood pressure or anything like that.
well, I've been checking it at night. When I start to feel that way, I'll check my pulse and my heart rate, and I'll check my blood pressure. My blood pressure will be like 160 over, 89 or something like that.
160? Yeah, so you got high blood pressure. Okay,
But comes and goes now. Like if I tested it
Yeah.
now, it's probably 120 over 80,
right.
And I have a lot of stress. I have a lot of tension. I feel like I'm right in the middle of a huge flare up of the fibro because my body's hurting, and it's the stress was removed, i.e. the girl finally quit from the job that was so stressing me out so much. And that's usually when stuff kind of comes up for me to like work through. Like the body feels worse after the fact than it does, that it does during the stressful time.
Your body aching?
Yes.
And
But I have more energy and I'm moving the body more. But yeah, like it's that fibro hurt where you just, if I hit it on something, it hurts for longer.
Yeah.
But I'm using the lymphatic blend. I'm bathing in helichrysum. I'm taking black cumin.
so continue with the black cumin and let's have you use, like, what do you have as far as dark blue oils? Like you have yarrow, you have German chamomile, you have,
Yeah, both.
what's that?
I think I have both of them. Definitely
Yeah.
yarrow.
Okay, so let's have you take like the yarrow and put it in like let's have you use like either a witch hazel base or alcohol base and stick about 25 to 30 drops of the essential oil per ounce of the witch hazel or alcohol. And so if it's a 2-ounce bottle, you're going to put in 50, 60 drops.
Okay.
And then shake it up really good, like, because it will separate, like, so shake it up really super good. And then pour out little amounts and just start at like your head and neck and just start doing the arms and the chest and the abdomen, your back, hit your hips, your legs, your knees, like hit everything. Once that's all applied to your whole body, rub some spikenard on the bottom of your feet. And I would actually like it if you did you could do ylang-ylang, but inhaling ylang-ylang, not even really following a pattern, just inhaling ylang-ylang, it will sometimes help things like tachycardia and things like that. What's your pulse? I'm just curious. When they took your pulse or when you take your pulse?
Is pulse the same as heart rate?
It's like just a number, like your blood pressure is 120 over 80. It's just usually the thing that's one number, like somewhere.
Yeah, like sometimes, like if I just walk, just a little 10 minutes, my heart rate goes up to like 130, 135.
Yeah, so you got tachycardia. Okay, so let's have you do let's have you start with a Lang Lang, but you could rotate neroli in there at some point, like, and even trade off with those. You know, the blood pressure a little high, and you know, 160 is starting to get concerning. You know, if it's just temporary, it's like it happens. But if it starts to be up there kind of on a regular basis, you know, that might need to be treated for a little bit. But let's start with Lang Lang and Raleigh. Did the physician put you on meds or anything like that?
Not yet. I just got the echocardiogram yesterday, so they're gonna
Okay.
call me tomorrow, but
They might put you on meds, and honestly, you could take them just till you get stabilized, and then look at like trying to treat it naturally. But then it's starting to get up to 160. That's starting to get a little high. You know, the 89 is high normal, but that's starting to get a little high. And so, you know, stress can do it, and then it can go away. I mean, there could be all kinds of things that you had something where you got overheated, definitely could have thrown you in a little bit of a crisis like that. That's why I'm like, normally I would just say, oh, you know, maybe go see your doctor or whatever. But, you know, that you had that crisis, you know, let's normalize the body and see if it's happening. You've already seen the physician, they're looking at you. They didn't seem to put you on meds at that point, but you're going back and forth with them. And so let's just try to normalize it the best that we can. And so the Lang Lang and the Neroli should help with tachycardia and just abnormal rhythms and things. I mean, it doesn't work like medications work, but it can calm things down a bit. Sometimes I will also have people put pine on their chest, you know, like several drops of pine in a needle application and up there. And that changes the pH of the heart. Are you getting cramps at all?
I was gonna say my chest feels tight when
Yeah,
everything's
see, that's
elevated.
that's your blood pressure. That's
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
little freaky, I can tell you.
Yeah, like let's not just think that this is going to go away. Like, you know, you've already brought it to the attention of your doctor. Let's try treating it, but your doctor's probably going to put you on meds and just giving you a heads up. Probably what you a lot of times what they put you on right off the bat is lisinopril, and it will probably regulate it within a single dosage or two. And you know, you can take it for a little while, and then when everything feels a little normalized, you can talk with your doctor about going off of it. But like, get everything stabilized first. Like sometimes when the blood pressure starts getting really where it's fluctuating a lot, the body's just getting a little chaotic. Like, you know, start to balance it out. And so, you know, everything that we said, that should all help. Yarrow can actually help reduce blood pressure, especially applied topically to the body. And so I like that for reducing inflammation, calming down sensory nerves, potentially calming down the blood pressure. Sometimes spikenard would work. The other thing that I throw in there sometimes is Cape snowbush. Cape snowbush can be helpful. The other thing, if we step away from the essential oils, is usually when there starts to be blood pressure or cardiovascular issues, I usually try to have people use some form of coenzyme Q10. Usually the form that I usually have people use is ubiquinol. It's like UBIQ, you know, whatever, UINOL, something like that. But ubiquinol, and so it's a form of coenzyme Q10 that's more, your body's more able to assimilate it, and so
I think
it's
I take that. Do I
probably
take one?
three or four caps a day.
Okay.
Yeah, like you're probably taking one or maybe two. Like
Right.
bump it up to 3 or 4. Yeah.
Okay.
That should also help. And then if you're getting cramps at all, like calves, like whatever. Magnesium would be good.
Okay.
Yeah, but boy, stay on top of that. Let me know how you're doing in a few days.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Like, some of it could be stress. I would actually, unless this was happening before, it was probably when you got overheated and everything, and then your skin got congested, and that could throw the body out of whack pretty quick. And so I used to have to treat this in athletes somewhat when they would just, we'd call it bonking, like when they bonk out on the road or whatever. And
That's what it feels like.
yeah, it's like you're going along and all of a sudden everything just, bleh, it's just, you kind of fall apart. And it sometimes took a little while to kind of pull them together again. And, like a little while, it might have taken like a week or so. And so, and that's with somebody standing over them and treating them the whole time. And so when you're still trying to work and do all these other things, it might take you a little bit. And so, I've been there a few times myself, and it takes a little bit to pull out of it, but it's very doable. And keep monitoring the blood pressure, keep making sure that's all okay. And the other one that you can take in here, I think we're dealing with your body had a reaction to the heat, and then what happened, and it kind of threw your nervous system in a funk, and then throws the lymphatic system off because of the congestion and all that. But sometimes under periods of stress, we overlook it. I tend to overlook it a lot, but lavender is actually quite good for reducing nervous tension. Nervous tension in the body can be reduced just by simply inhaling lavender or putting several drops on the body. And so, I don't think that's the issue right now, but as far as like when you're in the middle of work and things might spike from time to time, at the end of the day, a good strong lavender bath, or laying in bed inhaling some lavender, or even a few drops of lavender and water and drinking it can be very, very helpful. Yeah. But keep monitoring like if you don't have your own cuff, you should probably invest in the cuff. And usually when I did things for people in the corporate world is if they didn't own their own cuff, we just got them a cuff. And, even if they didn't have blood pressure issues, because a lot of times they would be fine. And then either a bunch of people would get upset at them, or they'd be under a lot of stress, or they couldn't sleep, and then they were traveling. And so we just got into the habit of monitoring their blood pressure, but that pulse is a little high. That's little tachycardia there. It happens. It doesn't mean that it's a forever thing, but we just want to stabilize it right now.
There's definitely a lot of stress from work.
Yeah. How I'm curious. How is your sleep? Like, how are you sleeping?
It feels like I can get to sleep and I can stay asleep, and but I don't always wake up feeling refreshed.
Yeah,
But I sleep.
that usually means you're not sleeping in the deeper levels.
Right.
So let's have you try enhancing your sleep. Let's have you do the Schisandra right at bed, or maybe some kava right at bed. If you're falling asleep and you're needing to stay asleep in deeper levels longer, a little bit of St. John's wort at bed will do it. It doesn't make you fall asleep, but it allows you to stay in deeper levels of sleep for longer. There was an old study done, like, I don't know, 25 years ago or something, and it can be somewhat helpful for that phase if you're having a real hard time staying in deep levels of sleep, what they used to call 3 and 4 levels of sleep. You're probably just hitting 2 and then even going into 3 just for a little bit and then popping right out. And so if that doesn't work, boy, second time, like it may be doing a little saffron internally. I usually don't have people do that right off the bat, but this might be one of those cases where you even go there with it. But I would try these other things first. You know, that's not going to help the blood pressure, so to speak, and it's not going to help some of the early things. But as far as helping you go to sleep deep, you know, we have that protocol. I think we put it out. Did we do the Dreamtime protocol? Did we put that up the kit?
Yeah.
You know, that's to help you go like deeper into deep sleep, lucid dreaming, you know, processing in your sleep, which means you're hitting level 3, level 4 sleep. And so if none of these things work, that might be the next thing that you try. But I would try these things first, to be honest with
Okay, okay.
you. Yeah.
So that kit, does it have instructions in the kit
No,
or?
yeah. Well, it's a PDF that we send you.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
With the enhancing sleep with the St. John's wort, is that inhalation or internal?
No, that would it needs to be internal. Like it needs to be a couple of drops internally. And the only reason I don't make a big deal out of it is if you're on a bunch of medications, sometimes 1 or 2 drops might be okay, but like it is a really strong blood purifier. And so what happens sometimes if you take more than a few drops and you start doing it regular, it literally starts to drain the medications out.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I usually don't make a big deal out of St. John's wort because of that, you know, because who knows what people are on, and I don't want to diminish the effects of the medications that they're on. But like when you're trying to detoxify the body from medications and anesthesia and things like that, you know, if it's just a surgery or something, that's one thing. But when people have been on meds for really long periods of time, one of the ways that I detox them is actually St. John's wort. You know, put them on it and it flushes it out. That, or it sounds funny, but really big dosages of broccoli sprouts. You know, the food, like you can find them in health food stores sometimes. You know, like like the regular sprouts, but they're broccoli sprouts. They're really specific, and boy, you eat a bunch of those for a few days, and it cleans you out. You know, cleans out all the stuff from medications and things pretty quickly.
Hey, Greg, I was taking something called Zysel, which is an antihistamine that I took at night. And when I went to the doctor and I told him about the heat exhaustion and everything, he had me stop taking that. So just in case anybody else.
It could be causing the blood pressure issue. Like sometimes some of those things can affect with blood pressure and pulse. Yeah, like if he took you off of it, I would go off of it. I mean, if you're on or need the antihistamine since you've gone off of it, definitely maybe go to the quercetin. You know, 3-4 capsules a couple of times a day, just to have an antihistamine type effect in your body. I mean, it is kind of springtime, and you're going to be more prone to have that kind of stuff. So it's good timing to do it anyway. But yeah, I would lean into that. Greenland moss might be something that if the quercetin's not quite working, you know, it cleans up the liver, cleans up the kidneys, but Greenland moss can actually have a decent antihistamine effect as well. But quercetin is pretty tried and true. And so I usually go to that first.
If you're taking the Greenland moss, do you take it during in the morning?
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah, it won't make you sleepy, it won't make you groggy, it won't be stimulating. You usually don't even know that you've taken it except the taste in your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Greg. I
Yeah,
really,
yeah. Keep us posted though. Like,
Thank
and, you know, don't want to let this get too far out of hand. It sounds like you're already getting better, but like keep them moving that direction. You know, like one of the things that I did one time is I just was like, yeah, the body will regulate, and it didn't. you know, it kept getting worse and worse. And, you know, at some point the body, you know, screams for, you know, downtime. And so, you know, try not to let the body get to that point. You know, emotionally, mentally, you can be totally fine, but your body's having a difficulty.
I've taken
So-
some days off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
But if you're gonna rest like well, like, you know what I mean? Like do like some wormwood on your gut, or, you know, like rub it on your abdomen and really put your body in a parasympathetic state so that your body can just rest and repair. Yeah. I mean, you guys remember, I stopped traveling for a few months last summer. Is my body was just not responding to normal rest and everything, and I just had to like let the body rest for a while. And I was like, yeah, a couple of weeks, and then it was a month, and then it was like 6 weeks, and then it was 2 months, and it was just, you know, I'd been traveling for a while. I was traveling 48 weekends out of the year and had done that several years, and was working 15-hour days, and it just all caught up to me. And you know, I had the warning signs prior, but I was like, oh, I'll just make it to the fall, or I'll, you know, whatever I was thinking. I can't remember what I was thinking. Something silly. And you know, at one point I was like, this is getting to be ridiculous. I need to take downtime. And it took longer to bounce back than I thought, you know, but it's doable. It's just like when you get into an extreme phase, you just have to really let your body rest, you know. And I was still working through all of it, but I just wasn't traveling. And so, you know, for you, you might not have to go to the office as much for a little bit or something.
I'll keep you posted. Thanks.
Yeah. Absinthium or wormwood baths would be probably really good for you.
Oh, that sounds delightful. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, absinthium is pretty fancy.
And go ahead, Cynthia.
Hey, Cynthia.
Let's get you unmuted. There you go.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, how are
I
you?
have a question about my husband has re-injured L3 in his back that was significantly ruptured about 10 years ago. And
It's not herniated, it's ruptured.
it's not ruptured right now. 10 years ago it was.
Did they pull that part of the disc out? Like what happened? Did they do a surgery or no?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know what you were asking. That I think he had a shot in it.
But they
And
used the term rupture.
Yeah, because my son went with him, who's a chiropractor.
Right.
And they said that it looked like this was during the Gulf oil spill.
Mhm.
And they were saying, ooh, wow, that looks like the oil spill.
Okay.
And so it took a long time to heal.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't take surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they tried this first, and that's what he chose.
Okay.
And so every once in a while he'll rupture it. I don't mean that. He'll injure it, tweak it, doing something.
Mhm.
And then he can sometimes lay on the floor in a certain way and he can feel it go back in. Well, he did something to it.
That sounds a little bit more like a herniation, like the disc just kind of pops out.
Well, it won't go back in this time. Whatever, he just can do this
Okay.
exercise and it will help it, but it isn't helping
Okay.
this time.
Yeah, I think I know. Okay, gotcha.
And we're supposed to go on vacation this week. And
Okay.
so to the beach with family. So it's getting better. It was excruciating the first day. It's getting better. He's icing it, taking a leave. I'm using marjoram. But today he's going to work. He's trying to move around and be very careful.
What kind of work
And-
does he do?
He's human resources. It's pretty stressful.
Nobody's sitting all day, yeah.
Yeah, and for a while he
Okay,
could stand. He had a standing desk, but lately he's having to interview people by Zoom, and so he hasn't been standing as much. So
Okay.
he said, he described it where it feels like, well, it's gotten better. So now it's not excruciating like it was, but it's painful, close to being really painful. And it
Okay.
feels like he said there's a knife, it's like the knife is in there all the time, and then he'll do something, and then it feels like the knife has been turned. And it's just excruciating,
Okay.
in short things. So is there anything
Yeah.
that might
So
help?
do you have a pen and paper? You have because I'm
Yes.
gonna bark off like a list of things. So
Okay.
so right off the bat, I'd like to see him take like 2 to 3 drops of galbanum at least once a day, if not twice a day. This
Okay.
will help take the edge off the pain, and it will reduce like a body tension that's there because of the compromise in the spinal cord. And so it will allow him to kind of relax a little bit. Then some form of oil. Do you have from one of the classes or something, the bronchioles blend?
I have
Do you know what I'm talking
the bronchioid roller.
Yeah, perfect. That's his new best friend. He needs to spend
good.
long periods of time just inhaling that. So what that does is anytime there's sharp pain or an injury to the spine, the bronchioles go into a spasm, and then it starts to put more pressure on the disc. And so part of what happens is when the bronchioles go into spasm, the diaphragm tightens up and goes into spasm, which increases the tension of the multifidi, these little muscles that run along the spine. And so it just increases the tension on the spine and the spinal cord. And so what starts to happen is the injury is causing the breath to basically shorten and the diaphragm to tighten up. And then the tight diaphragm increases the tension on the spine, and then it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so the galbanum will help take the edge off. The bronchioles will help to release the bronchial blend, will help release the bronchioles and the diaphragm. Keep putting the marjoram just directly on the spine. I would actually rotate it with the pain relief neuropathic blend, or like peppermint, or something with mint in it. Mint is going to be anti-inflammatory. It's a good pain reliever. It's going to be somewhat antispasmodic. It should help. That combination should be pretty helpful. At some point, I would probably have you use some blend or single oil like Inflamen or Blue Healer, or just German chamomile, yarrow, the blue tansy or dark blue tansy, something like that on the area as well. But the one thing that I would also like to have you do is Sylvester pine, or just regular pine, like 4 or 5 drops on his wrist at least once a day, but if not twice a day. And the reason is that's going to increase the cortisone levels in the body and have a bit more of an anti-inflammatory effect, almost like kind of a steroid, like a steroid effect, a steroidal effect. And it will help to reduce the inflammation, to help, again, diminish the pressure that's on his back. And so once it starts to feel better, he's not completely out of the woods, but like he still needs to rest it for a little bit and get it more stabilized. So the reduction of pain is good, but I would still treat it for a little while even after the fact, just because it's an area that's already caused him a problem at least once or twice before. And so I would stabilize it like that. I suspect that he probably has psoas issues, and The bronchial should help to relax the psoas a bit, but that could be something we address maybe a little bit like further down the line. You know, we could have him do oils and do some things in positional, in positions to release the psoas that, you know, don't aggravate it and cause, you know, it would cause like relief, not, you know, sometimes when somebody's having like a crisis like that and you try to stretch it, it actually makes things worse, not better. And so sometimes the thing to do is to do positional release, which is instead of lengthening the muscle, you bring the two ends of the muscle closer together, and then you just let it sit there for a while to allow the muscle to relax. But that he's in, you know, I'm saying crisis, like he's not in a crisis, but he's in like a pain crisis, you know.
Yeah.
I would calm the pain crisis down before I started doing those other things. You know, like it still sounds kind of like acute, even though it comes and goes. If it was chronic, I'd say we're just going to have to rip the Band-Aid off and jump in there. But that it's acute, I would calm it down, and then we can go through and have him do some other things. And so so do those things. So galbanum internally. If he doesn't want to do it internal, 4 or 5 drops on his wrist. Right.
Okay. No, he'll do it internal.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be
Great.
fine
And
with
then
that.
the pine on the wrist, the bronchials, multiple times a day, like as many times as he can, actually. Like every time he has a break, if he just, you know, after a few days, he probably won't even feel that he needs it. Rub the marjoram on his whole spine, like, you know, just kind of have him lay on his stomach and just go down his back and then just kind of rub it in. Let that soak in, and then put in a little bit of massage oil or lotion or something, the pain blend or peppermint or something, and make it real strong, you know, like in a little like teaspoonful of oil, like massage oil or lotion, put like 10, 12 drops of the peppermint or pain blend in there, rub it together, and then just really rub it into the exact area and the surrounding areas. And that should bring him quite a bit of relief. One thing that I like to do when somebody has low back issues is I also like to treat the hamstrings. And so you could use either the pain blend or the marjoram on the back of the legs. The one that I'd like to go to is some form of pepper, like black pepper, pepper supreme, pink pepper.
I have all those.
Yeah, you use
all
any of
three.
them. Yeah,
Okay.
use any of them. You just put it on his legs neat, like,
Okay.
you know, like 8, 10 drops on the back of each leg, and then just rub it in, and, you know, make sure it kind of covers the whole area, but from the back of his knee up to the crease where it's starting to hit his butt cheek, like just go, you know, back and forth with that. That long-term wise will take a lot of tension out of his low back. Like when everything is stabilized, the hamstrings are going to be treated much more than the low back itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Now,
right
should
now,
the
you can do
marjoram
that.
be neat, or is it okay?
I would, you could mix it with a little bit of something, but honestly, I would probably do neat if his skin
Okay.
can handle it. If he's a little bit sensitive, mix it in with a little alcohol or witch hazel and then rub it on. But if he can handle it, I say go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Boy, keep us posted on that one. That kind of pain can be so debilitating. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, just keep us posted on
Okay. Thank you.
that. Yeah, you're so welcome.
And go ahead, Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, so I had some questions concerning my son.
Sure.
It's for my son and my husband and another son. And I think, so I took the abandonment class, and
Okay.
I was noticing a significant shift in myself.
Okay.
And I was feeling like the Bay Laurel and the Helichrysum would be significantly helpful across the board for for all of them. And
Mm-hmm.
so before I went to go purchase, because I was going to purchase the larger bottle,
Sure.
I wanted to check to make sure if that was something that you would.
Sure. So, okay, so let me ask you a couple questions first. So, you're treating them for abandonment, or you're just doing kind of like a body tonic, or just helping with, we were talking about how the bay laurel helps raise the vibration of the lower centers and the function of the body, and it's good for the lymph nodes and the immune system.
So there's another part to this. Yeah.
Mhm.
So my oldest son and my husband, they have congestion, and it has mainly, my oldest son was born with spina bifida, and
Oh, wow. Okay.
he's doing fabulous. He's at college, and he's on the paratrack team, and he's incredibly good at shifting things within his own body. So
Sure.
I give him something and he does it, and he uses it to help himself, to heal
Sure.
himself.
Right.
So he's done an amazing job with that. I was thinking, because of the congestion, like the diaphragm was tight. I was feeling like his digestion wasn't getting cleaned out. And I found a product that's helping him with that. So that's loosened up. Now
Okay.
I feel like the next step was, I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything, that the helichrysum might help to do the rest of it, because I think our whole family's dealing with abandonment issues in a sense.
Sure.
And
Honestly, everybody is, to be honest.
and he's at
The
college.
Dalai Lama is dealing with abandonment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everybody's got it.
Okay. So so with the spina bifida, I was feeling like helichrysum was maybe something else that we can add to everything that he's already doing, just to help heighten himself and give him.
Yeah. So let me just ask one more question. The other son, the younger son, how old is that person?
So he is 18.
Okay, so we're talking about adults, right? So okay, so bay laurel, you could use bay laurel a lot of different ways, and even using bay laurel as like a tonic, you could do that. It's very good for the immune system. It's very good for cleaning out the lymph nodes. It's very good for helping to fight off bacteria and viruses, and it can be good for congestion, like mucousy kind of things. I mean, it's not necessarily the first thing I would go to, but like it's definitely in that wheelhouse. It can be very helpful in those areas. The thing also is it does clean up the lower centers quite substantially, or raise the vibration of the lower centers, which is just a fancy way of saying that it makes the body and the lower emotions, like all that, like function better. Raising vibration just simply usually means improved function. And so that is definitely good for that. Helichrysum is very good for reducing inflammation, increasing and improving lymphatic function. It is somewhat of a pain reliever. It has some antispasmodic properties, but like emotionally, it does help with the reduction of trauma, the change of perception, and moving past like traumatic events. And so, I mean, it's something that, again, just about anybody could use. Like, we all have changes of perception just in society over the last 2-3 years, with all the changes that have been happening. There's a bit of trauma that's in place because of all that. And so even if you're just looking at it from that point of view, it could be helpful. But helichrysum does a lot of good things for the body. And so both of those are pretty good for some of the things that you're talking about, both treating the the abandonment issues if they're there, but also just cleaning up physical functions and helping to regulate some of the lower emotions and things like that can be very helpful. If there starts to be other issues, there was the other components there. But those are two pretty good takeaways from that weekend that you could do on a pretty regular basis. I mean, here at home or the office, whatever we want to call it, we go through a lot of bay laurel. I mean, a lot of bay laurel. And so, if I'm taking a salt bath and I'm not sure, like, oh, I want to do this or that, it's bay laurel. And I put a lot of bay laurel on my back, just to stimulate the immune system, to keep clearing out the lymph nodes. And a lot of times it even reduces pain a little bit. Definitely kind of strengthens the body somewhat. And another one that we didn't really talk about in that particular class, but if we're just looking at ways of treating like the terrain, which is like kind of non-specific treatment of the body, but like trying to make the body function better and work better, strengthening the immune system, is there's another one called Ravensara. Ravensara, very good for strengthening the body, fortifying the body, strengthening the immune system, and it just kind of keeps making everything work a little bit better. Now, just to be clear, there's two oils that they got named almost identically. There's Ravensara and then Ravensara with like a T in it. I'm talking about the first one, like Ravensara. Like it's called Ravensara, but if you do want to go down that rabbit hole, again, it's like bay laurel. It's not very expensive, but it's a lot of bang for your buck with that one. And so if there's fatigue issues, they could be taking even a little bit of it internally, like say midday or something, and it's not going to keep them up. It's not going to be like coffee, but you just get a little stronger and you can, pull things together for a few hours. And all of those would be good regardless of the condition that a person has. Those are very good toning things to do. They're very good for the abandonment kind of issues, but if they're dealing with any sort of like immune deficiency or struggles, or right now it could just even be allergies, still an issue, you know what I mean? And so all of that can be good. You'll go through the bay laurel, even if it's not exactly what you're looking for, you'll go through that bay laurel. Like, trust me, like we go through like a ton of it. And so
so I was just trying to before I did the purchases, I just wanted to make sure
those are solid choices. Like we have like a thing, like we say in the office, like there are some things that are just like bread and butter, like, you know what I mean? They're just really solid choices to have in your toolbox no matter what. And the helichrysum and the bay laurel are bread and butter choices. You're going to use them no matter what.
So
they do a lot of different things.
Awesome. My kids are really good at, especially my oldest that I was telling you about, really good at like just shifting things. And so I felt like because of the environment that he's surrounded in, and like you said, everything that's going on over, in different places where you are in your environments, I felt like it would just give him that extra lift, extra help. So I've taken the helichrysum internally. I just put a drop in my water, and I'll just take 1 drop or 2 drops a day. And I've noticed a huge shift within myself to help me. I'm just wondering, is it okay for everybody to take 1 or 2 drops a day? Is that
that's a casual dosage.
Either of the oils?
Yeah, that's a casual dosage. Helichrysum, that's totally fine. Bay laurel, you could do that times 10 probably with the bay laurel, and it would be fine. The thing that's really nice about bay laurel too, just because we're also in like the still kind of in the cold flu season / allergies, is if there is any sort of like sore throat or scratchy throat, bay laurel will usually knock that out pretty quick. And so you can put a couple drops of water and drink it. You could gargle with it. Or my favorite thing to do is to take a couple drops on my finger and then just go as far back on the back of my tongue as possible and just like rub it back and forth and then just let it be. Any of that will usually knock out the sore throat. And so all of those things are very good. And again, the helichrysum internally, again, helps with the trauma and moving past traumatic events, but also a very good lymphatic stimulant. You know, it's very good for cleaning up the lymphatic system. You know, you're going to two things that are very good for the lymphatic system, and bay laurel is incredibly good for the fighting off viruses and bacteria. So, I mean, it's kind of a win-win, you know.
Okay.
So, yeah, super solid choices, by the way.
Okay. That's what I'm glad. Okay.
Yeah.
And just the real quick, cinnamon leaf, for those of us that, so my younger son, the 18-year-old, he's gone through like a lot of growth issues and growth hormone. He's on some growth hormone to help him, which is working out beautifully for him. It's just that confidence builder. And I was wondering if the cinnamon leaf, if I should go in that direction or just use the bay laurel.
I would. Like, honestly, I think I would. You know, the thing with confidence sometimes is you get a little bit too like self-aware of your struggles or your like your fears or something, where cinnamon just really makes you go super like extroverted. You know what I mean? It really makes you just kind of shift from turning inward so much and you just start expressing outwardly. And so it makes them a little bit more thick-skinned. It strengthens the level of energy in the body. But in times where you're lacking a little bit of confidence or a little too introverted or thinking about like, oh, I shouldn't have said this or that, extroverts never think that way. Like when somebody's super extroverted, they usually don't ever have that self kind of dialogue. And not saying that's right or wrong, but it's just like we should be able to shift into being introverted sometimes and then shift to be extroverted. And so when we have like some self-confidence issues, we just kind of need to nudge them to be more extroverted. And so that could do it. That definitely could do it. You know, one of the greatest ways to instill confidence in somebody is just to have a series of small successes. And it's amazing how healing that is, you know. And so it be it that he's just, you know, just focused on himself a little too much, or maybe there was like times where he tried and it didn't go well, or, you know, he's just still feeling a little awkward from being a teenager and all that. The more that he starts to have those little successes, the more he's just going to shake that all off. And cinnamon will definitely move him in that direction. You know, it's almost like you just don't even think twice about it, and then pretty soon you just realize like, wow, I'm doing it. You know.
Okay.
And so, yeah, super good way to go. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Solid choice. Yeah, solid choice there too as
All
well.
right. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Really appreciate
You're so
your
welcome.
help.
So with that, like probably he can inhale it, but I'd actually have him take a drop or two of that in water, but make sure there's a lot of water because it will make the lips tingle a little bit otherwise.
So I always try something on myself first to just
Yes.
feel, just don't want to make sure.
Right.
And I've taken it too, and I've been like, wow, this is great. Like,
Yeah.
because I can be very internal, and it just helped me like go that extra step in so many different ways, which I so appreciate.
And the thing is like when you're a little bit say maybe more introverted and you start taking cinnamon, it's not like you become like super extroverted, but you become like a little bit more confident. You don't focus so much on like, oh, the what ifs and everything. And you become a little bit better at defending yourself. Like when somebody's kind of stepping over a boundary or something, it becomes a little bit easier to say, hey, back off. Like, and you don't even really think about it. It just like kind of pops out of your mouth. And it's the energy level has changed, and you've got a little bit more of a thick skin. Where you're introverted, the tendency is if somebody's overstepping a boundary or being a little bit obnoxious with you, you're still like, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I don't want to, this or that. Extroverts never think that way. They just push back, you know what I mean? And so it usually doesn't make them over the top that way, but it just gives them a little bit more of like, hey, back off. And if he's sensitive or a little bit more of an introvert, he could probably use some of that just so he establishes his boundaries, like with, it's not that they're not established, but he like reinforces his boundaries with like his peers and like people at work or school or whatever it is, sports.
Totally.
It just kind of clears things up a little bit where he's very clear on what it is and what it's not.
Totally.
At that age, that's almost always an issue. Almost always. For a few more years, it's going to be a little bit of an issue.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
solid choices across the board.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Really
You're so
appreciate it. Okay.
And go ahead, Kathy, then Saha Jananda.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, just to remind you, I'm the one who has the trigeminal neuralgia.
Yes.
It has been gone.
I remember you.
Yeah.
Like when you start talking, I remember you. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me though.
Yeah, just in case. I had been gone for like 5 months. I was off all my medicine, everything. And all of a sudden, the last 2.5 weeks, it's come back. Right now, it's kind of okay, but I'm just at a loss. And I thought I'd come on here and see if you have any thoughts, or my diet doesn't change much, or my supplements don't change much.
Yeah, I mean, pain can go in cycles a little bit. And so, I mean, it's not too alarming. I mean, it's frustrating, but
It's a little depressing.
yeah. Trust me, I hear you. Like, for me, mine's my back. Like, I broke it when I was like, I don't know, 20, 21 or something. And, I didn't do the surgeries that I was supposed to. I'm like, I get it feeling good. And then I'll like, catch myself, like I'll bump into something and like, there we go again. And so, did you have allergies or anything, or did you have like abnormal sleep or anything like that?
No,
like,
I got an Aura ring to try to manage my sleep. All my things are good, my heart rate variability, but I looked at stress, I looked at structure. I've been to my chiropractor twice this month, and she said it seems like it's out again, but my neck or something, I'm keeping a guard. It seemed like I slipped.
Okay, let me sit with this for just a second here. Everything seems good. It's spiked up. How about your body ache, joint ache, anything like that?
No, it's just
Nothing.
just
Just
goes.
the face pain.
Yeah, when I talk, when I eat in the morning, it's the worst because it's somehow when I sleep, I don't know if it seems structural, when something moves in your head and something's pressing against it. But like the last time I went to my chiropractor, she said, nope, nothing's out. I don't know. I thought stress can do it, and then pain causes stress. But I don't feel I'm stressed.
Yeah, you don't look stressed. I mean, everybody always has some stress, but like we're not talking like abnormal amounts of stress that would.
Yeah, I'm not terribly busy or anything like that to cause me a lot of stress.
I would say like I'd like you to do something to like deepen the breath and loosen up the bronchial. So bronchial blend, like hyssop, Sitka.
I have both hyssop and Sitka. I don't have bronchial.
Yeah, perfect. So just you use one of those and just do a lot of long, slow, deep breathing. And then the other thing,
I take galbanum every day in water, a couple of drops. I take
Yeah.
black cumin seed every day in
Okay.
water. Those are the main ones for sure.
And you have marjoram?
I have marjoram.
Yeah, let's have you do some inhalations with marjoram and even maybe put a little bit on your abdomen, solar plexus area, and a little bit on your low back,
Okay.
the kidney area. So between the inhalation, like still maybe even inhale the marjoram a little bit, but still do the Sitka or the hyssop. And your kidneys look a little bit congested, not bad, but you know, the adrenals, they're not super overactivated, but they're, my guess is it's the time of year rather than something like stress or something. It's like the stress of the environment.
Well, we're
And-
doing
and-
renovations at the house too, so I didn't know
Yeah,
if there was something
okay.
in the
Yeah,
air.
see, I think it's probably something like that. So I think between these two things, it should knock it out.
So the topicals, just marjoram and inhale Sitka and,
Yeah, topical marjoram on the solar plexus and on the low back, and still
Okay.
inhale it, and then either hyssop or Sitka, inhale it just to relax the diaphragm and loosen up the spinal nerves and some of the cranial nerves. Yeah,
okay,
I think that's probably going to be enough.
okay, thank you. I was
Yeah.
like desperate.
But like within 3 or 4 days, if it's not feeling better, like email us. Like don't even wait till
Okay.
next Tuesday. Email us and let us know.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you're so.
And sorry, Saha Jananda will go right to you. I just need to check, sorry, for the previous person. Somebody was also asking for the Bay Laurel. How would you make the tonic? A Bay Laurel tonic, you said.
I'm trying to think of what I said. What did I say? Bale tonic.
Yeah.
A tonic would like what I call a tonic is like usually in witch hazel, and so 25-30 drops like is a strong dosage. 15 drops is pretty moderate per ounce of the witch hazel, and then shake it up and then rub it all over the body. Yeah, I like the bay laurel for that just because. Very good for breaking up stagnation in lymph nodes. And so it's, it's cleansing to the body, it cleans up the lower centers, it has an antiviral, antibacterial effect, and really super good for the lymph nodes. Really super good. And your lymph nodes are your body's ability to detoxify and to fight off viruses, bacteria, things like that. So.
Thank you. And go ahead, Saha Jananda.
Hey.
Hi there. I have a friend who has what's called synovitis, which is lining of the joint, her hip joint, basically. And she said it's swollen and inflamed the lining and causing her adductor and groin discomfort. And my first thought was the stuff we've been talking about, bay laurel and helichrysum. And I'm just wondering if you had other thoughts. It's just really painful for her.
They just call it synovitis, or they call it tenosynovitis, or what did they call it?
Just synovitis, which is
Inflamed synovial lining.
synovial
Yeah,
inflammation,
the
basically.
helichrysum is probably a good choice. Sometimes I even mix the helichrysum with a little bit of lavender for that. Like when it starts to calm down. I'm thinking this out for a sec. When it starts to come down, like I would do like the helichrysum with a little tiny bit of lavender, and they don't even have to do them at the same time. You could kind of rotate them. That could be good. That will reduce some of the pain and help move the lymph and everything in the area. The other thing is like when it starts to possibly calm down a little bit is I would probably treat it with lovage, like applied topically over the area, and that will help flush some of the deposits and things out of the joints, but some of the deposits are also like the old like synovial fluid and things like that. It can help to regulate the bursa sacs, the synovial sacs a little bit. And so if it starts to be more severe, like when the lining of the joint gets irritated, you can switch over to like a German chamomile or a yarrow. Put it in a massage oil and like pretty strong, and then rub it on that area. And you could do it multiple times a day, but it can be a little bit miserable for a little bit. It's in the adductor. Is it closer to her knee or up by
it's in
her
her hip.
right?
It's
Yeah,
in her hip, it's the thigh bone in the hip socket, basically.
Okay.
Hip joint.
So yeah, so do those things when it starts to calm down. You could rotate the lovage, and then like the phase after that would be that blend joint relief, but that's like when it's all starting to calm down, and that's starting to be getting things moving better, and then prevention, right? So right off the bat, you could do helichrysum. You could actually even mix in a little bit of like birch, if you wanted to, but straight up helichrysum would probably work. Like let's make it not complicated.
Okay.
And then galbanum's always good to just take the edge off. Black cumin's always good just to stimulate lymphatic movement, reduce inflammation, things like that. And then there's probably even needs to be a little bit of resting that hip for just a little bit.
Mhm.
Are we sure there's no like bone on bone or anything?
Yeah, she said she had x-rays and there was clearly, it wasn't bone on bone. She's very
Okay.
clear about that.
Yeah, let's stick with what we're talking about. And
How would you use
and-
the helichrysum? Just straight, neat, or?
I would actually probably put it in like either alcohol or a massage oil or lotion, but I'd put like a teaspoonful of lotion or massage oil with about 10-12 drops of the helichrysum, and then rub it together, and then just rub it all over the affected area.
How about the helichrysum roller ball? Because I've been using that for myself and it's great.
You would have to cover a lot of ground. Like
Okay.
you could do it, but like just kind of really like just keep going back and forth over the area, get it kind of wet with the oil, and then rub it in. You could do that. Yeah, sure.
It's already mixed, so it's.
Yeah, it's already mixed. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
So you're so welcome.
And just to clarify, the galbanum, black cumin internal.
Yeah, the black cumin internal, galbanum internal if they can, if not, several drops on the wrist. And going back to that situation too, that could be another one too, where you put a little bit of the pine, the Sylvester pine or just regular pine on the wrists and rub it together, like 4 or 5 drops, because it does have a bit of a steroid effect. It helps to increase cortisone in the body, and so it can help reduce the inflammation in that synovial lining. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Perfect timing. If you'd like to join us, we
Oh,
are
God,
about to
7:30.
jump over to our special chakra angel practice right now. We're going to do a little deeper dive into the chakras and the tree of life practice session. You are all welcome to join us. And then right after that, we'll be jumping into our Astara prayer petition blessings. And so we're going to jump over there. I put the link in here for you guys, and I'd love for you to join us. Also, it was in the weekly newsletter right under this link that you had for this one. We'll be right over there. So hope to see you in just a minute.
Thanks, you guys. Take care.
Thank you.